Hello, everyone. Welcome to the GitLab Student Contributor Workshop here at City U Seattle. We're very excited to be here to chat with you today about contributing to open source. And then we're also going to use an example of contributing to GitLab. So we're excited. I'm Christina Hupy. I am a manager of education programs here on the community relations team at GitLab. And we also have PJ. PJ, would you like to say hello?
I had to find the unmute button. Yeah, I'd love to say hello. Hi, I'm PJ Metz, education evangelist from GitLab. I am excited to be here. I'm excited to be a part of this team and working to bring DevOps into classrooms and into students' lives across the world. So thank you for having me here and having Christina here and having us here. And yeah, back to you, Christina. Quick introductions today.
Quick introduction, yeah. We'll have plenty of time to ask questions and interact as we go along. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And let's see, can everyone see that? Yes, all right, awesome. So what we're going to do today is talk about, like I mentioned, how students can contribute to open source. So we'll talk a little bit about open source. Get my cue here. So we're going to talk a little bit about what open source is, and then why consider contributing to an open source project. I'm going to share some open source projects that are actually hosted on GitLab. We have dozens of really cool projects that are hosted on GitLab itself. And then we'll talk about how you can contribute to GitLab, the open source project. So GitLab is a company, but it's also a platform, the DevOps platform, but then it's also an open core project. So we're an open core company, and the core of what we do is open source. And so we welcome contributions from all kinds of community members, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And then PJ and I are going to go through a demo of how you can actually contribute, and we'll do that live. And we'll show you how to do that. And then we'll kind of break into a workshop where students can try to, make a contribution and open an MR. And we have some great swag to send over to Kim at City U to hand out for opening an MR. So everyone who shows up today is going to get rewarded with some swag. So we'll go ahead and jump right in. Before we get started, we always like to share a little bit of our GitLab community code of conduct. And I don't need to read it word for word here, but basically we really want to foster an open and welcoming environment for all of our contributors and maintainers and anyone in our community, really. And we want that to be a welcoming and harassment-free experience, regardless of your background at all. And so, PJ, if you don't mind grabbing the link and putting it in the chat there to our community code of conduct page. And there's, if you ever have any concerns, please feel free to reach out I think, I don't want to say the address there without getting it wrong, so we'll put it in the chat, but feel free to reach out to us. And this is an important part of contributing to open source. You want to make sure that any of the projects that you contribute have a community code of conduct so that it is a welcoming and inclusive environment. And that's something that we really strongly value at GitLab. Diversity, inclusivity, and belonging is one of our values, and we extend that throughout our community. So we wanted to take a time to visit that. So next, let's talk a little bit about what open source is. So open source is software where anyone is freely licensed to use, copy, study, and change the software in any way. There is the word license there, which I want to make sure that I mention because open source software and code, and you can actually open source content as well. So you can put articles or books or even images and give it an open source license. And there's a whole bunch of different kinds of licenses. And you may have heard of different ones. We're not going to get into that. There's the MIT license. There's a couple other different kinds of licenses. We're not going to get into the details of what the actual license does, but just each one has different guidelines and rules for kind of how to distribute and edit the software. So that's an important thing to just kind of be aware of. It's a pretty interesting topic we don't have time to get into today. But the idea is that the source code or the source content is openly shared in a central location, and people are encouraged to make a contribution back to that central repository, or kind of take it to their own repository, fork it, and then edit and copy it and continue to modify it in their own right, following the license as well. And changes to the central code generally are kind of organized and processed by the code maintainers. And in the case of GitLab, our code maintainers are employees of GitLab. So they work at GitLab and they take contributions from people in the wider community. If the open source project is not also a company, say it's just more of a volunteer community, then it may be volunteers who've kind of achieved the maintainer status, who will help merge code in. So it really kind of depends. Like I mentioned, the code is kept in repositories online, and Git, the technology that does the version control, is a really important component of that, right? Because it allows us to store data and code in a central repository and make changes and keep track of those changes. And in this central repository, discussions can take place between the contributors, the maintainers, the owners, and then also the users of the code as well. So there tends to be a lot of interaction. And again, that's why it's important that community code of conduct is another important part of that. So why would you consider contributing? Why should you consider contributing to open source? Well, it's a great way to gain some hands-on technical experience. Generally, there's going to be some kind of a bar to contribute. So you're going to have to know a little bit about the language, or at least know Git or how to access a central repository. But a lot of communities will have things that are good for new contributors. And we have that at GitLab. And the example that we're going to talk about today is just editing text files. The demo that we're going to give is editing text files. And so just because you maybe not have a super in-depth technical experience, if you're early in your software development or computer science degree, there's still ways you can contribute, and documentation is a really good example of that. It's a way to set your own schedule. Say you're bored on the weekend, you don't have any plans, you're trying to build up your portfolio. You can kind of do it on your own time. If you're a night owl, morning person, doesn't matter, right? It's your own schedule. I think it's also really cool to think about it as a way to build your technical portfolio. So, I think everyone gets their mindset as they're a student on, oh, I have to get this internship, or, I want to go get into that program or that prestigious thing. And that's, there's only so many slots. Sometimes there's geographic barriers, sometimes there's time barriers, sometimes there's other problems, other challenges. And so contributing to open source is a great way to build your portfolio. Think of it as like a project that you work on in a class. You could work on a project for an open source project, and have that be fill that same kind of purpose. And it also builds a public record of your contribution. So I'm going to show you an example of mine as well as when we get further in. Because of the nature of open source, it's a way to build and expand your network with other open source contributors. So you're meeting the people who are creating, the ideas for contribution. You're meeting the people who are also reviewing your code and mentoring you. So it's a great way to build your network. And the experience translates to other things, right? So it translates to on-the-job experience, working with classmates, working with your professors, working with maybe, in a research team or whatever it is that you're doing. Those skills are transferable, right? So it's not like it's happening in a vacuum. It's things that you're building to your portfolio, right? And it shows that you're an active learner. You're going out, you're seeking ways to get better, seeking ways to learn. So all the way around, it really adds a lot to your resume. So when you're considering contributing to an open source project, some things to consider: availability of onboarding help, issues for first time or new contributors, and then communication channels. So maybe they have a forum. PJ, if you don't mind sticking the link in the chat to our GitLab forum, that would be helpful. And then we also have a Gitter channel as well for contributors. And this is where we have a GitLab Heroes program where we recognize and honor people who make a lot of contributions. and they hang out in these places and help answer questions and are generally very welcoming. And so you get to meet GitLab heroes from literally around the world who are expert contributors. You also want to look at the responsiveness. So maybe look at some issues, kind of once you ask a question, see how long it takes them to answer you. And then also we've already kind of mentioned the community code of conduct. So that's already a good example. So as I mentioned, GitLab is an open core platform. It's also an online SaaS or software as a service. And we host thousands of projects of all different sorts, but we also host projects that contain open source. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this link. And this shows you a list of some of our open source projects here. And I'm going to go ahead and stick that in the chat as well. And so this table gives you some examples that might be a little small. So let me try to zoom in there a little bit. But here's a list with hot links. So these are all projects that are hosted on GitLab that you could consider checking into and contributing to. So it's a really pretty good list. You may recognize some words on here like Linux, a couple different Linux projects. Drupal is another name that you may recognize. So we encourage you to take a look at this list and just kind of poke around and see what interests you, and maybe take a look at, like, do they have a community code of conduct? Do they have issues for new contributors? Is there something in their tech stack that you've been learning that you would love to be able to add to your portfolio? And you could, take some time over the summer or your break and see if you can kind of make some progress, on learning some of these different things. Oops, I jumped ahead there. The other thing I wanted to show you is that we, at GitLab, we have an open source program where we provide free Ultimate, which is our top tier licenses, to open source projects that qualify. There's a couple qualifications. I'm not going to get into the details there. But for those that want to host their community on GitLab and then encourage their contributions to happen, we have the GitLab Open Source Partners Program. I'm just going to scroll down because you might recognize some of these other logos here. So GNOME is another one, freedesktop.org, Debian, ARM, Finos, Drupal, Arch Linux, Fedora. These are ones that you may recognize. So these are kind of special open source projects that we have a relationship with. So I encourage you to take a look at that list as well. And I do want to mention a little bit about our code contributor program. So we have a whole program and a program manager dedicated to facilitating code contributions to GitLab. And code contributions come from community members. They may come from, and by community member, we really mean, anyone who's using GitLab, right? Any developer, any user of GitLab can make a contribution. And then it kind of gets more specialized from there. So we have customers who contribute to GitLab because they want a certain feature that maybe is unique to their use case, or they've developed on their own and they think other people might want to use it, so they might want to put it back in our core. And so there's a whole bunch of different reasons why customers and community members consider contributing. And you can see here that we have over 2,500 contributors, and this is our average a month. And we're doing a pretty good job of kind of increasing that over time. So I just want to show you this because you won't be alone if you're contributing, and it's really it's the direction a lot of open source projects are going, is to grow and get that momentum, and there's a lot of benefits to it. So where can you contribute to GitLab if you're interested? Well, there's a couple different ways, and we don't have time to get into all of these in too much detail, but I'm going to point out a couple. And one of them I already mentioned, which is documentation, right? So let's just say you don't have a ton of tools in your stack yet, but you still want to get started. Technical writing is a great way to do that. We also have translation opportunities. So if you speak a different language and you're interested in helping to translate pieces of the GitLab software over to a different language, there's a lot of opportunities in translation. The areas that kind of require more technical expertise include development, which is actually the core of the software, right? And then there's the user experience or UX, which is more like front end versus back end. So development is more back end, and then front end is going to be the user experience. And then there's things like contributing to templates. So we use templates, issue templates all the time. To CI/CD templates are another great example. So there's ways to contribute without that high technical bar. And then we have ways to contribute in our community. So you can host a meetup. You can write a blog post. We would love to hear about your experience as a student contributor. If you post it on your blog, we can share it, that kind of stuff. And then our handbook, and then we also have the example of a linter, which is where you search through our handbook or search through our documentation for certain phrases or typos, and then you can identify ways that you want to fix those. So I'm going to click on this link for development, just because I want to show, I know a lot of the students who are attending. Yeah, and thanks, PJ. We have a theme right now, which is front end development for this month. So there's a meetup. Great opportunity to connect with professionals. Come hop in a Zoom call and meet some front-end developers and ask questions about contributing to GitLab. It's a great way to get involved in the community. So I'm going to go ahead and post this link in here as well so that you can see it. But this is a guide about contributing kind of to the back end. And it walks you through finding an issue or a project to contribute to. It also shows you how to set up your development environment. PJ and I, we found for a lot of students, the lift here is a little bit heavy in terms of getting your environment set up. So don't feel like development is you may not be there yet, and that's okay. I'm just showing you this so that if you do feel like you want to tackle something that's a little bit heavier as you kind of progress, this is everything that you would need. So there's a development kit, the GDK README. You can get started with Gitpad. And then here it says you can also, contribute to the handbook, which is what we're going to do today, which is just editing text files, just to kind of show you. And then the docs. And it walks you through how to open a merge request and how they're triaged as well. So there's step-by-step directions. And then they actually have a list here, again, of where you can contribute. I think PJ and I found that last time we kind of looked at some of the back-end stuff. We use a lot of Ruby on Rails. And so you want to check into that tech stack to see if there's, tools that are in your stack that you're comfortable with. Otherwise, again, we recommend kind of starting back out at this documentation of handbook. So today, we're going to kind of walk you through documentation and handbook, and we'll do the demo and the actual example on the handbook side. And before we break into that part, I just wanted to give you kind of an overview of what GitLab is. And as I mentioned, GitLab is the DevOps platform. And really what it is it's one place where the entire development lifecycle can happen in a single data model in one simple location without hopping around to different tools. And so if you think of this from a software development perspective, right? You're planning what you're gonna, in issues and epics and with labels and milestones, you're gonna plan what you're gonna develop, then you write the code, and then you move through verifying it, packaging it, sending it out there, making sure it works, getting it ready to work, and then monitoring it. And so this is all kind of really happening in one place, which is the benefit of working in a single DevOps platform, is that we find our customers and our community can develop so much faster, which is a huge benefit for open source projects, right? Because if you're trying to get contributors to help your project grow, and they have to use 10 different things, and they have to log in and configure it all to work together, it's not efficient. And so what we find is it's a huge advantage for open source projects to be in one place, because the development process, the contribution process is much smoother. So just to kind of give you an idea of what this looks like, right? If you were to come to contribute to GitLab, you would find, a product manager would create an issue and say, hey, this is a good issue for community contribution. And then you would basically take that issue and make a merge request, a branch off the main branch, and then you would commit your changes you would have your CI pipeline run, review kind of what you did, and then you would assign it back to a GitLab maintainer. And that's all in the directions. It shows you how to, how to find the maintainer for what you're working on. And usually it's in the issue, so it's not that hard. But let's say there wasn't an issue. You found something you wanted to create. You can find the maintainer of that part of the product. And then there's some peer review and discussion. So that's that back and forth of mentoring. And then the changes get approved and it runs and gets merged back in. So that's kind of the general process of what we're going to cover today. And so what we want to do is I'm going to stop sharing, and we're going to go ahead and I'll give PJ a second here to get situated, and then we'll hop over. So what we're going to do is PJ earlier today found a typo in our handbook, and I'm going to just go ahead and GitLab handbook. I'm going to go ahead and Google that. And one of the things that's really unique about GitLab is we have our 2,000-page handbook online, and it is created, stored, maintained in GitLab, and it's also open. It's open commons, and so people can contribute to it. So it's right here. It says please contribute. So the details are right there. And PJ found a typo earlier today. So we're going to walk through what this looks like together here live with you to make an edit to our handbook, commit the changes, assign the merge request to me, and then I'll review it and merge it, and we'll show you what this looks like. So I'm going to, PJ, are you ready?
Yeah.
All right, I'll stop sharing, and PJ, you can take it away. I think you should be able to start sharing.
Thanks, Christina. So today I'm going to walk you all through how you can contribute to GitLab using our handbook. So if you're looking for typos, that's going to be the place to start. What we're going to do is we're actually going to start looking directly at a handbook page right now. And if you notice right here, we've got this AUE indication word. That's not a real word. So what we're going to do is we're going to go and we're going to change that. So what we want to do is we can click open in Web IDE, or all the way down here, we can edit in Web IDE. And that takes us to the Web IDE. However, this is not my work GitLab profile. This is the type of profile y'all might have when you're working with GitLab. This is what you see when you're not a member of a project that you're trying to contribute to. You actually have to fork the project, make the changes, and then push those back and merge those branches together. So we can go ahead and do that. We're going to click go to fork, and it's going to fork for us. Now, I already have a fork installed. The GitLab, what we call -com project, is actually a big project. There's a lot in there, and it's going to take you a while. When you first fork it, it's going to take a long time. It's going to say project is being forked. Just wait and just be patient. It'll eventually pop up to this screen right here. I know this is different from before because we don't have the banner up top, and right here I can see that this is the Metzing Around. That's my username over here, the Metzing Around version of -com. But one of the things we don't have is we don't have where we were working in the file tree before. However, here's a secret. If you're working in the handbook, that is always in Sites, Handbook, Source, Handbook. And those are all the pages of our handbook here right now. Now, if you want to find the page that you were looking at, you actually need to head back to that handbook. So I'm going to head to the handbook, GitLab, Twitch, and it should help me find, yeah, Twitch for Evangelists. This is where I was. So there's that typo again. We're going to click open in Web IDE again, and it's a little bit hacky, but this helps us find the file tree. So we can go Sites, Handbook, Source, Handbook. Once we've got those 4 folders open, we need to scroll all the way down and see where marketing is, because marketing is the folder we need to get into. And the reason I know that is because when we're looking at the file tree that we originally saw, marketing was where the education program and community relations was located. So we need to head to that part of the file tree. So marketing, community relations, education program, education evangelism, Twitch, and there we can see that typo right there. So in order to fix that, we're just going to real quick change that to education like it should be. And as soon as we start typing in here, we see the blue commit button light up. Now remember, we can't do the work over here. We had to fork it first. So since we're going to fork, since we're in our fork rather right here, all we have to do is click the blue commit button. Now we're going to create a new branch and we're going to call it, I'm going to use my name dash, and it's going to be typo fix, and we're going to say Twitch for like the page that we're doing it on. And we're going to start a new merge request. This is checked right here. If that's not checked, there's another process that I can show you how to do in 1 second. But for now, start a new merge request is right there, and it's going to automatically do it for us. Here's the merge request of you can see the target. Oh, sorry, this is the target. You can see the source, messing around, GitLab-com, PJ typo fix Twitch, into GitLab-com. This is the master branch of the GitLab-com website. That's where the handbook lives. So we just need to say why it's happening. And the reason why it's happening, well, rather the reason why we say why it's happening is because you don't just want to tell somebody what changed, you want to say why it changed. Now for typos, it's very obvious. This is a typo. Oh, that's a typo too. This is a typo and needs to be fixed. For sure, that's obviously the reason we're fixing typos. It's for readability. But if you're merging for larger projects, or if you're merging, say, into another open source project and you're changing some of the code base, or you're adding a function, you want to say why it's being added. You don't just want to tell them what you're doing. You want to tell them why you're doing it. The why helps answer why they should listen to you and take the merge request in the first place. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that there. It's just, there's a typo, it needs to be fixed. This checklist is something I'm going to show off in another second. Delete source branch when merge request is accepted. Squash commits, leave those checked. And then I'm going to click create merge request. Now this might take a little bit of a second because this is a large project, like I said before. But once it's finished, we're going to see the actual merge request itself right there in front of us. Okay, so once the merge request goes through, this is exactly what you'll be looking at. This is what we call an MR. And this is fixing a typo, Education Evangelist Twitch. And I think that's a pretty concise MR. There's a typo there in the handbook, and we fixed it. So I want you to notice that some things that automatically happen, and you might have to refresh your page in order to see them because the bot takes a little time to do it. I've automatically been assigned to this MR. Additionally, a label has been added here of community contribution that automatically gets added by GitLab bot. So you can see GitLab bot says, thanks for your contribution. After it generates this message, it then applies the label community contribution. It assigns it to me. And then all this stuff is stuff that I've done. It's all stuff that I've done. I want to take note down here. I just need to hide my camera real quick. There are 6 participants in this. So you can see I'm a participant. GitLab bot is a participant. And then these are 4 people who are team members at GitLab. Lauren Barker, who's one of our front-end engineers. This is John Coughlin, the interim director of community relations. This is Christos Bagarakis, who's our community contribution project lead. And this is Fatima Khalid, who's a developer evangelist here. And these people are all participants here because they're all capable of helping me make this work. Community contribution probably tags some of the community relations people here. And really, as far as like what you need to do in order to contribute to GitLab, that's it. That's all you have to do. You make this MR and then it's totally out of your hands. This pipeline is running. It's checking a few things. I'm asking to merge this into master for GitLab, and like, that's all you have to do. So let's say you're making a change and it's something that you don't automatically see the little automatically create a merge request option clicked there. That's totally fine. What you can do is, let's say we're adding a change here. So let's say I'm, going to make this into a comment, and comments in HTML are like this. So I've got a little comment here that I'm going to add that is saying this was updated on April 6, 2022. Just to have a little comment here. Really, I'm just trying to show you all some changes being made. So I've got this comment that I've added. I'm going to click commit. There's 2 reasons that you wouldn't have started a new merge request. If you create a new branch, it starts a new merge request. But if you commit to master, which remember, this is the master branch of your fork, not the actual GitLab project, it wouldn't have an MR. But just for fun, let's go ahead and do new branch. We'll go PJ. We'll call it comment Twitch. And let's go ahead and get that bracket out of there. But I'm going to unclick start a new merge request. And I'm only doing this to show you how you would initiate a merge request if you didn't automatically do one. So I'm going to commit that. And we're going to let that spin up. All changes are committed. I've got that new branch. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to head back to the project itself. And this is my fork. It says you push PJ comment Twitch. You just did that. And I was like, good. That's what I wanted to do. Perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to head here to merge request. And you notice it says 0. There's no merge requests here, right? New merge request. Sometimes there's an option up here. You push PJ comment Twitch just now. Would you like to create a merge request? I was like, heck yeah, let's do that. So here's what it does. It shows you exactly where you're coming from and exactly what you're going into. It's perfect. That little pop-up there is great. Let's say you don't have the pop-up for some reason and you're going from scratch. New merge request down here. You will actually be picking the target branch and the source branch. So here you can see the source branch here. This is my fork. This is the source project. Source branch. We've got a lot of branches here. What if we search PJ? Got PJ comment Twitch. That's the branch we were just working on. Over here is target branch. GitLab.com, www.gitlab.com. This is the target project that we're pushing into. But when you check in here, there's a lot of projects in here, and they all have someone's name and -com. So you want to make sure you're doing the right one. It's this one. It's usually at the bottom. And then what you do, there's that, and then you targeting master, comment Twitch. What we're going to do is we're going to compare those branches. We are on GitLab.com, master. We're going from source to target. So we're going to say compare branches and continue. This is similar to what we saw before, a merge request, right? What we're doing is we're going to change that title. It's going to be added comment to Twitch handbook, right? Same as before, say why it's being done, making sure comments reflect recent changes so people looking at code can know when new code was added. Now, obviously, that's not really, you can see in like the git commit, like it's not as big a deal, but that's why I'm saying I'm doing this right now. You'll have better reasons other times. So just like everything is the same from now, just you click create merge request, you see it in the next one, the bot shows up, everything stays the same. It's just that the process to get here was done a little more manually. I just want to make sure I showed that to y'all so you could, if you got stuck, if you didn't have the banner, if you didn't have the options, stuff like that, I wanted to make sure I showed you the multiple ways that you can create a merge request. So I'm going to go ahead and toss it back to Christina, and she's going to continue telling y'all about contributing to open source and contributing to GitLab.
Thank you. Great demo, PJ. So one of the things that we wanted to go back through and show you is kind of how to actually get started in the process now that you've got a good overview of what happens. So I'm going to go back to share my screen. Get back to the right spot here. And so what I know Kim shared before, the workshop link, which actually gives you step-by-step directions on how to do this. And I'll put that in the chat for you as well, in case you didn't get it earlier. And the first thing that you're going to want to do is create your free GitLab.com account. So you're going to need to have an account already. So if you didn't do that, we recommend that you go ahead and do that. And this workshop here, the link that we've sent in the chat actually walks you through the steps as well. So that way you can read through this instead of trying to follow me online. You can go ahead and walk through this and visit gitlab.com and click on register or sign in. And then we also encourage everyone to update your GitLab profile. So you can just add a little bit of detail about yourself in the profile. And we encourage you to add that you are a student and that also that you are a student and then your university as well. And that will help when people from GitLab are trying to help kind of mentor you and move your merge requests through, it will help them know that you're a student and you're just getting started and you're kind of learning as well. So that's a good thing to do. And then also, you can add a full README file. That is a new thing that GitLab added for your profile. And I wanted to get one done today to show you all, but I didn't get quite that far. But there are a couple cool ones that PJ, I know Michael has a cool one. I don't know if you can find that real quick and stick it in the chat. I can pull that up, but it's a great way to kind of put your resume, but a README is kind of a file about you and your interests and your background and kind of maybe your style, like your personality. A little bit of people put fun things in there. They like dogs or whatever their favorite food is. PJ likes Korean food and tacos, so yeah, tacos before he came tonight. So cool stuff like that, and that just really makes it personable. And then as you're building your portfolio, right? As you're building your portfolio, this is Michael's, and he's one of our developer evangelists. And the README here shows you, I'm a senior developer evangelist at GitLab. It gives you kind of his social profile. So we encourage all of you to follow any of our developer evangelists on Twitter and different social networks, because it's a really great way to kind of learn about upcoming opportunities and other ways to engage with the community. And you could just see he has some of his talks here that are really cool, blog posts, and then some insights as well. And then one of the really cool things that I love about GitLab, especially as I was a professor for many years, and I taught some coding, mostly Python, but geographic information systems. And anyway, when you're contributing here, you can see how many contributions Michael made today. He made 7 yesterday, and maybe he was writing a little bit more today than making actual commenting in issues and opening merge requests and merging things for other people. But you can go ahead and kind of see what he did. You can click on this and see what he did yesterday. It's been a little bit slow for me right now, but you get the general idea of kind of, and it's fun too, because you can see, he took off the week between Christmas and New Year's, these 2 weeks. We really encourage friends and family first and time to refresh. And he did a great job of staying away, which is really just as important. So the point here being that as you get more involved and as you do more projects on GitLab and you post this out there and put it on your resume, potential employers and collaborators can come and kind of see what you've worked on and it becomes a portfolio of a sense. So that's one of the reasons we encourage people to contribute to open source. So I'm going to go ahead and walk you through kind of this part of it. So please sign up if you haven't signed up. And you can also link with your Google, GitHub, Twitter account. The one thing that we do want to mention is that you get a certain amount of free CI/CD minutes with a free GitLab account, but there is a new step that requires you to verify who you are. And unfortunately, crypto mining causes a lot of abuse of free SaaS services. So we don't actually charge your credit card, but it's a verification. So there's no charge on the card. It's just a way to identify. Unfortunately, that's one of the only ways right now that there's to do that, although we are kind of looking into other options. So, and then once you're set up there, you can find an issue to work on. So I'm also going to show you kind of where to get help. So remember that there's that Gitter channel as well. So this is our Gitter channel for GitLab contributors. And you can see, here's Christos. He is our code contributor program manager, and he's inviting everyone to kind of check out our themed month, which is already what PJ mentioned, which is front-end development. And as you scroll through, you can see that there's 884 people in here, and people are just talking, being friendly, helping each other out. Lead Ticket is one of our community members, core contributors. We've got GitLab Heroes on here. And here he's, this person is asking some questions about contributing to the documentation. So we just really want to kind of show you the overall process here of how this kind of works. Once you have a merge request, or if you need help, you can reach out to merge request coaches. And that's one of the really cool things about GitLab is that we have merge request coaches. And they basically monitor merge requests, and they're there to help. And this is the coaching, this is how to learn how to be a coach, but I just wanted to show you kind of the information about it. And you can mention merge request coaches by typing at GitLab-org coaches. There's an MR coach tutorial, I skipped ahead there. And then you can always email contributors at gitlab.com as well. And then the reviewers and maintainers of each project are listed there. So as you get further along, those are some great resources for you. In our issue tracker, we have documentation issues. So if you go to gitlab.org and then GitLab and issues, you can build a search that says label equals good for new contributors. So that's an excellent way to find out if a community is kind of welcoming for people who are new. And then that you can also search for issues accepting merge requests and then documentation. So this is just an example search that we built, and you can see here, these are things that we know that the documentation needs. Or maybe the issue was opened by a community member or a customer who said, hey, this part of the documentation has an error, or maybe it needs more clarification or some examples. It would be really great if you built this out, they file the issue, then it's kind of sitting there waiting for contributors. So we encourage you to take a look at that. And then we also, actually, PJ, I don't know why, hold on just a second here. Getting started. Oh, here we go. There, I knew I had a link somewhere. I wanted to actually show you what that board looked like. So again, and I'll put it here in the chat, although you can also get it from that workshop. So again, label good for new contributors, accepting merge requests and documentation. And you can sort this by, is it high priority? What's the create a date, update a date, due date, etc. And then let's just take a look at the first one that popped up. Clarify what the namespace will be when you source your module. So let's open that in a new tab and see that, okay, this was opened 2 months ago by Mason, and it's explaining kind of, it looks like this person is asking us to give some more detail around the Terraform module registry. And we can see the labels that are here. So good for new contributors, documentation, accepting merge requests. It's also giving some product labels. So at GitLab, we organize things by stage. So group and then configure and section and ops. And it tells you here some details about the GitLab bot, does some automatic things. And then Nick, who is a GitLab engineer, helped label it and identify it. And then we have some back and forth. So what I really wanted to show you here is this is where the collaboration and that mentoring and back and forth is kind of happening. And this is how you learn. And I know a lot of, people maybe tend to feel shy or embarrassed, or at least I know I would. But after, understanding from open source projects point of view, how important it is to welcome contributors and make a welcoming environment. And in GitLab, we have literally, it is a major focus of our CEO and our company to get contributors and encourage them to come and welcome them to build build up the product so it's better for everyone, right? And so don't worry about being shy or embarrassed. This is especially for students, you have that tendency, and I know because I was a professor and PJ was also a teacher, an English teacher for many years as well. So we got that, and this is the reason we're showing you this is that these people are here to help at the end of the day. So that's why we're here. So, and here is Susan Southhorn. She's our technical staff writer. So she is in here working on this and kind of already kind of helping, right, the person who's doing the contributing. And if you were to go to documentation and find an issue, you want to make sure that you look and see, okay, clearly someone's already working on this. So if you don't want to try to start from the beginning, you either want to help where they're at or find a new one where it's clear that someone hasn't already kind of started working on it. And so let me go back to the issue board here. So there's quite a few pages of issues. So I encourage you to take a look at that and just explore it, and you can kind of get an idea how different things are working. So back to our list here. The next way to contribute is kind of the same way PJ demonstrated, which is fixing a typo in our handbook. And so that process is basically going to be find a handbook, find a typo, and then you're going to fork the project and fix the change and submit your merge request, and that will go to our website team. And PJ and I can help as well. You can tag either one of us, and PJ will put our GitLab handles in the chat so that we can keep an eye on that as well. But I'm going to show you one of our team members here, Greg, who's awesome. Greg Myers, a huge advocate for open source. We told him we were doing this workshop, and he used a linter and created this snippet of all of these typos. And so this is a list of typos, and it shows you, okay, so here occurrence is spelled wrong. And this is at this location. And so remember when PJ was trying to find where he was in the handbook? The cool thing about what Greg did is he already found all these for you. And so you can just navigate straight sites, handbook, source, about, source, index, HTML, and you find line 122, and you're going to find that this word is spelled wrong. And so then you can fix it and make a commit. And then the commit you can open a merge request, or you can keep committing if you on that branch, right? And then it'll go to the team to review. So we need to add the fork. We kind of forgot about that. We're a little spoiled because we work at GitLab, so when we do it, we don't have to fork it. So we'll make sure that we add that to our directions. But you saw PJ go through that process. It's just another button. One thing that I do want to mention, if you decide to do this, you can just do one, and that's totally fine. We will love to just take one typo and move with it. But let's just say that you see, for example, here that, here's one from support across is spelled wrong. And then here's one from data team. And you'll see that further is missing the R. Okay, so in the value of iteration in GitLab, we follow this idea that we want to make the smallest changes kind of possible and not try to lump a bunch of changes together. So don't feel like you have to go through this first of all and fix everything. Obviously there's a bunch of typos, but what's more important is that you see how this is organized, where this is all data team typos. You don't want to include changes from the data team along with changes from professional services in one merge request, because they're different code owners and different teams. And so if you want to make a couple different commits just to kind of get the practice, then we just recommend you stay kind of within the team. And you'll be able to see that here, right? Because it says data team. And then this one says customer success is a division, and then professional services is a division. So you can kind of follow the leads here. And we got plenty of typos that can be worked through. And so if we do have a large group, then we recommend here that you write C Hupy, I'll take, line, say I'm going to fix this one. I'll take line 25. And so that way, as we're working through the workshop today, if you're going to take one, go ahead and put that down there so that one of your other student colleagues doesn't come and grab it. So that gives you that idea. And then PJ gave you, yes, you can fix several typos in a single merge request. And then before we, stop the kind of formal part of our presentation, I did want to share, oops, darn it, PJ, I didn't update this. The next hackathon is in May, so maybe PJ can help me grab those dates real quick. But we have a hackathon every quarter, which is basically there's 4 a year. And the next one is coming up at the beginning of May. And really what we do is oh, you know what? I have the landing page right here, so I can, there we go, May 2nd. I knew it was right at the beginning. And this kind of shows you everything that you need to know about joining the hackathon. And during the session, it shows you how to join the sessions, how to get help, all of the different issues. And you can see last time we had 188 merge requests submitted. So, and there's really cool prizes, a t-shirt, coffee canister, charger. And then if you are the grand prize winner where you get the most points for the hackathon, then you get a really special swag kit. And all of these things kind of can add up to different experiences and, building your portfolio, but then also every time you make a commit, you kind of can be on the road to a GitLab hero as well. So, so that's another kind of cool aspect of it. So I think that is our last slide for today. And I wanted to share as well that you are welcome to connect with PJ and I on LinkedIn and Twitter. And PJ often posts on Twitter while he's twitching on Twitch. He hosts shows and does some demo. He's learning Python right now, so he's streaming while he's doing that, which is a cool way you can join in and participate. So we encourage you to follow us. And this link right here, I'll put in the chat, and that will take you to a bunch of different places where you can follow us and interact and watch the website and learn more. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and open it up for questions. Do we have any questions?
Thank you guys for the super detailed instruction. I've never seen open source contribution that easy, to be honest. I do have a quick question. So earlier you mentioned there's an engineer from GitLab called, his name is Nick, and he helped label the issue. So is it like a manual process, or is there any machine learning involved to help label, or can you?
I'm not sure if there's machine learning. I've heard about some. They're trying to get some of the cool stuff that they are trying to use machine learning for. Oftentimes, when you're contributing, there is confusion about who to assign it to or who to have review a merge request. And I know that our team is working on some machine learning that is trying to help make that easier by looking through previous merge requests in that project and seeing who it's like most often assigned to and suggesting a person to assign it to, that's something that our MGL ops is working on, which is kind of cool. As far as what to label an issue, we don't have any machine learning for that, but we do have quick actions. And what often people will do is for making an issue, especially, there'll be an issue, what's it called? Like a pre-formatted issue. I can't remember the name right now.
Template, yes.
Template is the word. I forget more often than any other word. There are issue templates that are suggestions. You actually saw an issue template in the merge request I was doing. So when I made a merge request, it automatically populated the field with a bunch of instructions. At the bottom of that merge request, and let me find that again real quick, that merge request. I did not pick a label for it. I just went through and clicked merge request. And you can see that because it was a community contribution, a label was automatically applied because the issue template had a quick action to attach a label to it. So for instance, Christina was talking about my twitching earlier. When I do a Twitch show where I'm interviewing GitLab team members, I have them fill out an issue template. And at the bottom of that issue template, it has a quick action to tag it with, I think, 2 labels that automatically let me know what I'm looking for, which is Twitch shows, and the show name is Meet the Tanukis. And that's those labels automatically get applied. So no machine learning, but we do have a way to automate it because automation is an important part of DevOps.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Automation is very important. Yeah, thanks for
sharing. Yeah, and then I'll just share this. So what the bot is applying, certain labels here as well. So I don't know if I don't know how it's, doing that. Maybe it's based on certain language. But like PJ mentioned, the other one, it applied the community contribution bot because it knew it was someone who doesn't work at GitLab who forked the handbook and then tried to make it, a merge request. So it labeled it automatically with community contribution. So those are those rules that were set up for that.
I see. And then also I was looking at the list of the open projects, the open source projects that we can contribute to. I know, do you have any like suggestions on how to choose a project? Because let's say somebody who's new to contribution, right? It's really hard to choose like which project I am capable of contributing to, or which one is easier and things like that.
Yeah, so that's definitely a challenge. I don't think there's a, one size fits all answer. I would say for sure, if you were to go, I mean, I can talk specifically about GitLab just as an example, because I think that's such a great question. What we're finding is that if you go to, let me get the right link here, is that hopefully the project has a guide for contributors. And that guide tells you what you need in terms of the tech stack. So I would start there, right? Because you don't want to try to do something that you just don't have that's not in your tech stack, in your ability to work with. So for example, I know we had a list of what the, let's just get, and here's the security one. And this talks about some of the policies, the contribution flow. Oh darn it, I was specifically looking for the tech stack. Maybe while I'm talking, PJ can, I know there's a list, we had a really good list in one example where it said, you need Ruby on Rails, you need Go, you need this, you need this. I think it was in the actual development one, but I would say starting there, I think is a really good place. So look and make sure that you have some of those. And I think for a lot of starting out developers, front end, where they maybe already know like Vue.js or Java or something that's a little bit more like they've done front end projects, and then there's some front end UX things that are simpler to fix. I would say for the most part, any project is going to have some kind of front end development. And the tools there are going to tend to be a little bit more accessible. So if I had to summarize, I would say look at the tech stack, consider front end, and then see if they're welcoming to new code contributors. And we do that by identifying it with a label, good for new contributors. So those are kind of the off the cuff kind of 4 guidelines that I would give.
Where can I see the good for new contributor tag again? I think I might have missed that part.
Yeah, sure. Well, let me show you that. I should still have it up. Let me share that again. So if you go to gitlab.org and then GitLab issues, and I'll put it in the chat again for you, Kim. You can build the label to say label equals good for new contributors, label accepting merge requests, and in this case, documentation. So I can go ahead and I'll close that off. I'll close documentation just so we can see kind of all the list of where the label equals good for new contributors. And then here it'll say, so here it says backend. And then, so we could do.
You could do issue is not backend, right?
Yeah, we could do issue. Yeah, we could do is not backend, or we could do, should be able to do front end.
Yeah, front end, there you go.
Yeah, so if we want to take a look at some of the UX stuff that's out there, you can see there's 54 open issues where this is adding something to a button, for example. So if I were a new contributor, I think front end stuff would probably be the best place to start.
I always say look for a mention of a language that you know.
Yeah.
like if you know JavaScript, look and see it. And really a lot of open source, and not just in GitLab itself, but a lot of open source, there's that expectation you have to be at a certain level. It's okay to be not quite there yet, and for the merge request or the pull request or whatever it is that you're doing to contribute, for your contribution to be a bit of a stretch for you and something you have to work at, that's fine. A lot of people contributing to open source will be like, oh, I can't do that yet, I'll wait until I'm better. Use open source to get better. And if you're looking at a project and it's Ruby on Rails and you've never touched Ruby on Rails, don't go to that one. If you go to one that's Go and you've done a little bit of Go, take a look and see if it's something you think you could do. At the very least, don't count yourself out immediately. Like if I see Ruby on Rails, I know to turn around and go the other way, because that's not for me. But Christina's absolutely right that using the issue search bar is really good. And it's not like a normal search bar. Our search bar is kind of cool, where when you click into it, it's like, okay, what are you looking for? Issue, label, epic, and you pick that, and then you pick either the equal sign or exclamation equals. So when I said, oh, you can do not backend, Christina just went with, oh, I'll just do looking for front end only. So tons of ways you can look for is not, and those fruits are actually low hanging fruit labels too. I learned that the other day. So you're like, hey, none of this has a backend label once I finish this search. So it's not like a regular search bar you might be used to, but I really like our search bar and the way it works. Yeah, absolutely. You can look for the most recent one. You can look for the weight. It's organized by weight, how important it is. You can look for organized by due date.
Well, yeah, so weight usually, just to make a minor correction there, weight usually is the effort that would require.
Oh, sorry.
Weight is going to be easier. So that's a great point, PJ. You can sort it ascending. So these are going to be ones that are easier. So here's an example of update the Debian documentation. I just looked at this one the other day. So there's a couple things that are missing from the documentation on how you work with Debian. And so here's a really, good example of, they fixed a few of them, but there's a few left. And so documentation, again, is a great way to get started, because you can go play around with Debian, play around with where it's at, follow the documentation, and then as you're learning, make the contribution to make it better. But to PJ's point, back to the issue board here, priority, I think, was what PJ was talking about. So priority, if you want to work on something that's less important to, in terms of, is it urgent, is it, to get started, or you can sort it the other way and say, I want to work on something that's, really, really important. I don't know. Sometimes it doesn't, obviously this has been a year ago, but you get the general, idea. So there's that weight that shows kind of how long it's going to take. And some of, yep, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Is there a way we can sort by language? Because I'm playing around, but I don't see that option. Like if I can choose specifically a language, for example, if I want to see Python, but I don't find that option.
I would bet doing it by label. There might be some labels that include language.
Oh, but that's a really good suggestion, though.
That's a very...
Okay. Do I get my title?
Yeah,
that's right.
You got swag, Ken. We'll send you swag.
That's right. Yeah, there's one for Ruby.
There's one for Ruby.
Ah, okay. Then I guess, like, if it doesn't show, it just does not exist.
It doesn't exist, but
100% honestly, Kim, I would recommend making an issue to recommend adding that to the search function, search by language, because I think that'd be really cool to see. And I think it's a great suggestion and great way to get the community involved with it. Because I always, one of the things I learned first here about community and the importance of having the community help and be a part is, sure, I could take that, Kim, and I could go to GitLab and I could tell someone, hey, we heard from the community that it might be nice to be able to search by language used for people who are contributing. But it is way more powerful. It actually comes from the community. Otherwise, I'm just running messages back and forth. But if you put it in there, and it's more important because it came directly from you. You took the time and the effort and the work to let us know something. And so we tend to take those seriously.
Awesome. I'm going to create a new issue then. Hi.
Yes. Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you
Well,
for the
that's a great question. And we will pass that along to Crystal, our code contributor, program manager, who's always looking for suggestions to make it easier. So I think that's one of the reasons why we caveated this at the beginning, that it was our first student contributor workshop, because we wanted to, wanted to share that we still need to think through kind of how all the flow works, but I think it's useful to hear that feedback for sure.
Absolutely. And I don't know if Emmanuel have any questions, and then maybe
Yeah,
while
Emmanuel, you're welcome to ask any questions.
yeah, maybe while yeah,
Sorry,
okay.
yeah, sorry, I was muted. Yeah, I'm digging here, looking the environment, and definitely thank you for I've been exposed. This is my first time exposed to this, and I definitely see the great benefits of contribute and develop skills to the community. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Well, feel free, if you do get in there and tinker around and want to open a merge request, Kim will have some swag, we'll ship that over, and feel free to tag PJ and I, and we'll definitely help move it through the pipeline. So yeah, cool. Well, I'm gonna stop recording.